There's the van.
Lovely. And what do you use to tow it?
I've got a Ford Ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
So here.
Right. Well, this is just on the mill. I'm using the router bits to make a nice taper. That's obviously the carburetors and the first runner mocked up.
Yeah, you did that mock-up to get the length of the plenum or of the intake?
Yeah, I sort of worked on the length similar to what the Webers were. So
yeah,
effectively from the head face to where the trumpet ended inside.
Yeah.
My original plenum on the Webers. So it's probably a little bit shorter than what the Weber runner was in total. Certainly a lot clearer run. It's a bit steeper angle. You haven't got all the throttle body and bits and pieces of the carburetor inside obstructing the flow. And you can certainly feel that it just revs a lot cleaner through to 8,000 revs.
Yeah.
So it's all welded up. The base plate for the first plenum chamber. Find it always hard welding big, thick aluminium with my welder, so you always get better welds on thin stuff.
Now, is that the original plenum in that particular spot?
No, that was just practice. That was just a bit of scrap, just making they're having a practice go. Just always nice to get in your head what you got to do to the metal. Work out how much clearance and volume and all that sort of stuff. So we should come up to
you found out maybe a bit big.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm putting a smaller throttle body on it as well. There's some Bosch 312cc injectors.
Yeah. And that's a mock-up for
fitting
where they're
up
going?
the fuel rail and work it all out and made some solid plugs in place of the injectors so I can hold it all in place while I weld it.
I always wondered with the aluminium welding, how do you keep things in place?
Oh, very hard.
Yeah.
Very difficult. But anyway, you just do the best you can. I actually stuffed up here. I ported the manifold a bit too much, so I bored out the manifold and I put a couple little plugs in there, machined out of aluminium and pressed them in. Just so I could have a bit of fresh metal and round up the port. Even used a little bit of Defcon putty to smooth things out. These are my brackets for the fuel rail.
Yeah.
Took me a while to work out what I was going to do there. Just getting here, setting it all up. I think that must be after I've welded it. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how did you position those up and then weld them in place? I don't know how you did that.
Those little solid billets that I made to simulate the injectors, I just put all them together and clamped it all with G-clamps. So here's the first bit of the proper plenum. You can see that I've done a bit of a shrink. Just a few rough guide marks. Gives you an idea. Obviously a lot more work, just that. You got to then put it in the shrinker and spend quite a bit of time. So that's the first half sort of done. And then I did duplicate that in reverse.
Amazing.
Which
takes a bit of
worked
time,
out pretty similar. Yeah, I'm getting quicker at it. And you learn what the metal needs. So that's after cutting and just tacking it together. And I've learned not to be so fussy until the end. That's obviously after a lot of hammer and dolly work and a bit of metal finishing. And
shiny, look at that.
And I just can't help myself. I've got to polish it sometimes just to see what it's going to look like.
Yeah. It's an obsession.
Yeah. I must admit, I'm hopeless with this stuff. I just can't stop until I get it done.
Yeah.
So that's welding the plenum on.
Now this is the part I love.
And here, I've never tried this. I've never tried it, so I'll try a bit of hammer forming.
Yeah.
And it worked out all right. once again, you do things different. So that's just all bits of wood clamped and glued together. And then a heap of bloody bog or bondo that the Americans call it. And then shape it a bit.
Sand it
and
down a
then
bit.
I just hit it with a sander, just a random orbital sander in your palm, and there we go. I sanded it more after that to get more of a shape that I wanted. But it's a good process, that, and I love it. It's very rewarding.
Yeah. And that part, it makes sense to me. But the part that we're about to come up to soon, this is the part that is the next step. Okay, you sanded it down, and then you're going to shape it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the cool.
Yeah.
part.
So I've sanded down to that, and I've actually made a flexible shape pattern for the very first time.
Wow. Okay.
Where you basically lay tape over it, just to give you an idea of the material you need. So that. Yeah, fiberglass tape, then I can lay that out flat, trace around it.
Yeah.
Probably didn't need to do that, but I wanted to give it a go.
Yeah.
But it does give you information, because it's always hard to think about what the metal needs. So when you lay that flat on a surface, it can tell you where it's going to be raised or shrunk. And here I just start folding and beating the crap out of it, and it looks terrible.
Well, that's all right.
So
do you have a leather pouch that you use, or how did you do that?
I do, yeah. Obviously I was trying to hold it all in place and coming up with different ideas, and you can see that top right hand corner, that's all got to be shrunk. But once you anneal the metal, geez, it's fun to work with. It's so soft. And once again, that piece looks like it's ready for the bin, but you just got to keep going. And even that, you think, well, I'll throw this one away and start again, but I didn't. No, you just keep going, keep hammering, and then you get less and less dents, and then you pop it off the buck occasionally and use a hammer and dolly to try and smooth things out, and eventually you just sand them all out, because they get so small you can sand them out.
Wow.
Once again, I probably shouldn't be so fussy until the end, because you end up taking too much metal off. Because I had to weld up my holes and then sand it all again. You should just.
They call me impatient.
Really pleasing, I can tell you.
Hours and that. Got to weld all that up and finish it yet.
Bit of a running joke in my family. They think I'm the impatient one.
Look at that.
Cut it to shape. Stretch her out.
Yeah, you got it welded up.
Yeah, welded up. Sometimes your welds crack when you start working them, and you're going to re-weld them.
Yeah.
I always try and weld both sides when you're metal finishing something like that, because an alloy weld, if you grind the weld off, there's just not enough strength in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's starting to come together.
Well, I did this for the purposes of demonstration of obsession, and working with metal, because it's part of the fabrication process.
So that's my lady's hand.
So I'm going to take that,
and we're back to that.
Yeah, I'm going to take that one out. Just remove that one out of there. Put the two of us back into it. And I guess the way I know it's not in the order that you did it, but the next part of this little thing that I'm going to be doing is moving into the wiring session. And I guess it ties into kind of where you're at right now, because you found the thing is producing all kinds of wonderful horsepower and power, but it's rough as hell, right? At the lower end of the yeah. So you got to sort that out somehow, and you've got people saying, giving you lots of good advice, and so it's back to the future, and take it down to a smaller size plenum and start all over again.
Yes. Part of the problem, my vacuum reading at idle is about 3 inches of mercury, which is nothing. It should be up closer to 20. So when the map sensor is trying to read that, it thinks the engine is under load when it's actually trying to idle. So yeah, it's not a consistent reading in the map sensor from when you say idle through to higher revs. So it's all over the shop. But anyway, we'll just keep playing with it. I can't probably change that without changing the camshaft, which I may do. I've got a milder camshaft here, but yeah, we'll just keep fiddling along. There are moments when I was driving and I thought, yeah, there's a chance here this is all going to work out. Because you did have moments where it was changing gears nicely and smoothing out, because it's a self-tuning ECU, which is probably the wrong way to go for what I'm doing, because it's always altering the tune to the situation that it has. And when you go from cruising back to idle, a little bit of inconsistency. But anyway, we'll try this manifold, hopefully with a greater airspeed. It will smooth out the idle, because the idle quality was terrible compared to the Webers. And yeah, go from there.
Well, with that, Troy, I'm going to say, have yourself a good morning. And I'm going to say, I'm going to end the recording, and we'll tune in and catch up with you later. And have a great time in your caravan. I have no idea where you're going, but have fun.
Thanks, Jim. Look after yourself.
I will. Cheers for now.
Bye.
Bye.